I'd just like you to ask a simple question to begin with. I keep encountering a failure rate of about 70% in terms of people not being able to earn a living. And I'd like you to think back to the people who were in your class when you graduated as a therapist or whatever kind of therapist it is that you are. How many of them are still in practice today? First thing I trained in was hypnotherapy. And out of 36 people who started that class, I think there's about 6 who are still in practice 9 years later. And that seems to be pretty standard across the different types of therapy. I've trained counselors and psychotherapists, and they've seen the same level of people who graduated with them just dropping off. I've seen the same thing with Reiki therapists, kinesiologists, a number. If you know it there, feel free to in the chat. The reality is that while there are so many people who are struggling, there are also more people seeking help right now than ever before. And with COVID, we have seen such an increase. People are not able to ignore what's going on in life. They can't be as busy continually. They can't distract as much as they used to. There has been a huge increase in people looking for help. And most of the therapists who've been fairly busy have gotten very busy. But the therapists who weren't busy to begin with, usually they're not doing the right stuff. They're not out there in the world enough to pick up that much of an increase from COVID. But right now, there really are more people looking for help than I've ever seen before. And I'm really, really hoping that we can get out there and serve as many of these people as possible. The number one rule is that if we don't allow ourselves to earn an income as a therapist, we're going to have to do something else sooner or later. You know, unless you're supported by somebody else or lucky enough to be independently wealthy, we need to be able to support our families, pay our rent, etc. And so often, it's really the case that we're not doing that. I have seen so many people who have been in practice for years and they still haven't gotten their heads around money, fees, taxes, advertising, all that stuff that's just the regular day-to-day stuff that goes with business. We're never trained for this in college. You know, no matter what training you've had, I've yet to meet a therapist who has actually said, you know what, I hit the ground running. I knew how to handle all that stuff. I was good at advertising. It just doesn't happen. We're kind of dropped in the deep end and have to find our way through all of this. And the biggest saboteur that keeps coming up is money. Everything else we can learn to do. You know, I can show you a Facebook strategy that you can put out there and loads of people get clients from that very quickly. But putting it out there is where so much of the hesitation comes. And in seminars, when I do the 2-day Successful Therapist Masterclass, it is stunning how much of the time we end up going back to people's comfort and discomfort around money. That they can see what they want to do, but they'll keep coming up with objections and questions of what's getting in their way. And that's what I really want to break through here this evening. If you or anybody you know is holding back around areas of money, I want to get those issues out this evening. I want to show you how we're getting around them, how we're bringing people to look at them in a way that lets them succeed, and show you what's the stuff that is allowing therapists to get out there. So I'd like you to start thinking about earning a real income as being less about money and more about what that does in life. The most important thing is it allows us to keep going. I'm coming up on 6,000 client sessions delivered in my main therapy. I have helped a huge amount of people. The reason I've been able to help so many people is because I've been able to keep going. But look, if I couldn't afford to live on the income I get as a therapist, I would have had to do something else. And you know, I have a young daughter. I would have done whatever needed to be done to bring in money. If it was stacking shelves, I'd be happy as long as my daughter was happy, as long as I was able to afford to keep my family together, keep the roof over her head. But I'm much happier being a therapist. I get to help more people because I've kept going. And that has a much bigger impact. You know, I like the fact that what I do is a bit bigger than me. It has an impact for a lot of people, and that has a knock-on impact for their families and their communities. It is a win-win. When we find how can we be successful and get ourselves out there being successful, we earn the income that allows us to keep going. How many people will you help in the next 10 years if you can keep going as a successful therapist in the next 10 years? I want you to start thinking of money as something that allows that to happen. Because it is absolutely heartbreaking, and I see this all the time, therapists not able to pay their rent, not able to afford heat or aircon. Now, admittedly, the aircon, that's usually more the Australian therapists I'm talking to. How many therapists do you know who can afford a proper family holiday? I would say most of the therapists I know can't. And just affording the basics in life is a struggle. I remember at one Christmas party for a therapy center a few years back, one of the therapists saying the thing they were most grateful for was they could afford heating oil. I mean, how basic is that, just to have a tank of oil? So we want to make sure that the basics that people need, the basics that we just need to live in life, are available to us as therapists. We shouldn't be putting ourselves into a position where struggling and poverty and difficulty is the norm for us. So I see Susan saying that the sound is odd. Anybody else having a sound issue? If so, just pop it in there and let me know. And those day-to-day basic things that people are paying in life, they're added to by the fact that there's going to be costs being a therapist. You're going to have to pay rent. You're going to have to pay taxes. Most of us are paying membership fees to professional bodies. You may have to keep a car on the road to get to your practice, or you'll be paying for public transport. Just keeping going adds a lot of extra cost. Thanks, Michael. Great to see that it's not everybody having the sound issue. I just want to throw this stuff out here because it's very easy for us to seem like the invisible person in our own life. A huge part of this is that basically therapists are awful around money. And I know that's a very broad statement and I'm kind of tarring us all with the one brush, but so many times this is the thing that comes up and holds us back. And when I think about when I started, I was appalling with money. There was a lot going on. Because I didn't have money, I was second guessing who could afford what. I was offering discounts spontaneously, like before anybody mentioned whether they could afford me or not. I was the person who was worrying about money and saying, oh, but I'll actually give you a discount. I really should have let the client bring up that if it was an issue. I just couldn't imagine people having money because I didn't. I had 80 quid in my bank account. So that was it, 80 quid. I couldn't imagine people paying a real rate. But, you know, I had to push through. I doubted I could really earn a living, and this is so normal. Here are the most common things that keep coming up around just money and therapists in the seminars that I do. And this really is the core stuff. So this is where I really want your questions coming in. I'm going to bring up the objections. We're going to work them through. And if you feel, yeah, I hear what you're saying, John, but it still feels wrong, that's what I need to hear. I want to get you over the problem here this evening. Well, and I should say this morning or this afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. For me, it's evening. I want to get you past whatever the problem is. So please ask the question and please challenge me. If you're saying, no, John, you're wrong on that because I feel this way, I would love to hear that. And I'm not going to be offended. I'm not going to take it personally. I love it when people say those things because if you have that question, if you have that challenge, well, you know what? Somebody else is probably thinking about it who didn't write it in. So healing should be free. This comes up so much, and particularly the complementary and alternative sides, we get hammered with that expectation. People don't have money. I can't ask for that much. I'm not motivated by money. Helping people is more important. People won't pay what I need just to live. Not experienced enough to charge enough. What if it doesn't work? These are all the things that keep coming up, and which time and time again, there's a negative feeling around, and it's that feeling that holds people back. They mostly amount to, I'm just not comfortable with the whole thing. Whatever it is around money, we need to get comfortable with it. Yeah, Michael, often been told to give it away as it was a gift from God. Interestingly, I would think if we look at most religions and we look at the people who are the clergy, I expect they're actually paid. You know, there's so much stuff that we kind of think should be free, and we don't really look at how does it work for other people. So let's get into these. Healing being free would be perfect. If we lived in an ideal world, we wouldn't need money or any of that. But when people think that healing should be free, they rarely are thinking that the healer should be hungry. You know, they don't think that the healer should be struggling with rent or bills, or that their kids should be poor. They usually just don't think about it. It would be absolutely wonderful if healing was free. And one of the things that comes up a lot around this is people say, well, because it makes such a difference in people's lives, because it helps people, they shouldn't have to pay for that. This I have seen on Facebook and other places where people are having arguments about whether they should be charging or not. But what this really translates as is that if we're only allowed to charge the things that don't help, then we have to guarantee that our help isn't of any use if we're to charge for it. If we're saying because it's useful, we shouldn't be paid for it, it's warped thinking if we think it through from the other side. You know, my plumber, he helps me. He does some really important work at vital times if there's an issue with that. And of course he gets paid. Why is it different? If I need running water or I need a toilet to flush, why is it okay for somebody to get paid for that sort of help? But getting over anxiety or depression or helping with physical pain or any of the things that we do, doesn't that have a value? I know a lot of you here, you know me, you've been on trainings with me before, etc. A lot of you will know I lived 37 years of severe anxiety and depression. And during that time, I had no concept of what was going on, but it held me back in so many ways in my life. The big thing that got me over that was a hypnotherapist who charged a very small fee and in about half a dozen sessions made a big impact in my level of anxiety. If I was to pay that person what it was actually worth, it would be a lifetime's mortgage. It would be well worth it. I've paid more to a plumber who put in a water softener for me than I paid to that therapist who got me out of the worst of anxiety and depression. We often look at things from very skewed angles when it comes to this. Here's a big thing, though, that I think is really at the core of this. It should be free. We're givers, we're healers. We want to make the world a better place, and we're not just focused on the money. And by the way, if there's anyone here who is completely focused on the money, and if you're here to find out how to make big money from high-priced clients, just go away now. This isn't us. We're here about helping people and earning a very good income, not fleecing people. And we want to be ethical about this. And here is how I find that we can be really ethical about this. I recently did a training for a therapy center, a national training organization training, and the people in the room, after we talked about fees and it kind of settled on what they were going to do, I asked them, okay, who in this room is the cheapest therapist? And they looked around and a few people put their hands up and I shook my head. And I said, I am. And they looked at me oddly because I'm expensive. You know, I'm 150 a session for one-offs. I'm 100 a session if there's a lot of help needed. And where I work, that's an expensive level. But you know what? I'm also free. I always have a free client. And the reason I can have a free client is because I earn a good living. I'm not worried about giving away that time. I can afford to give that time to somebody who genuinely can't afford it. But if I wasn't able to pay my bills, I couldn't do that. When I do this, though, I don't second guess can the person pay. And I don't put it out there that I'm negotiable, because then everybody wants a cheaper price. If you're giving a discount, it should be because you genuinely believe that person needs the help and genuinely can't afford it. It's very hard to be able to mind read and know who can and can't afford it, though. I always give my free session through a rape crisis center. There's people there who'll know that if somebody has PTSD, they probably need my help. They can send me a client every now and then, and I won't charge that client. So it allows me to give back. And I think this whole healing shall be free or should be free very often comes down to we want to make a difference. We want to make the world a better place. It's about us giving back. And I would like you to start thinking about how much giving back can you afford to do when you're earning an income, when you're seeing a lot of clients, when you can afford to do it. That's what I would like to suggest would be the best way forward with this. But if you have any questions or you believe healing should be free, I want the objection, I want the question, I want to know the thinking here to see can we find a way together to get past that. Because if that's holding somebody back, that means fewer people will get help in the long run. The next big one, if we can get past the, oh, maybe it's okay for me to charge, is do people have the money? So if we're thinking people don't have money, I want you to think about people you know. Who do you know who takes a family holiday abroad each year? Most of the people I know who I think of as having real jobs, as in they're in from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, they're not on minimum wage. They take holidays. I have friends who are in Vegas twice a year. You know, that's about $5,000 a pop that they do that. How much therapy could you get for that? How many people do you know who did a degree later in life? Most people, if they do a master's in later life, are looking at 10, 20, 30,000, even more. And if you think about anybody who has a car, you know what? I could have bought a 1-year older version of my car, saved $1,500 and spent that on therapy and still have both a reasonable car and the therapy I needed. It's not really do people have money or do they not have money. It's about how we connect with people, how we show that we can help them and how we get them to recognize what is the issue in life they need help with. It's not about our therapy type. It's not about us. It's not about how qualified we are. It's not about any of the stuff that therapists normally talk about. It's about, can we connect with their life experience? If we can, then the money side doesn't become such of an issue. I'd like you then to consider as well, here are some things I looked into earlier this week. I went to Apple's American website and I looked at the latest iPhone. The 512 gigabyte model is $1,399. Assuming that you're about 100 a session, that's 14 sessions of therapy right there. How many people buy an iPhone every year? It is crazy the amount of money that people spend on this. The PS, is it 5 or whichever games console just came out and sold out this week, was about 600 quid. It was gone like in days. I went on to Harvey Norman in Australia. There, the Asus 49-inch gaming monitor, $1,899 for a gaming monitor. How much therapy could you get for that? In Currys.co.uk, the LG Smart American style fridge freezer, and this blew my mind. I mean, it looks like a pretty amazing freezer, but £6,000 plus for a fridge freezer. And people are going to say that people don't have money. And this was an in-stock item, by the way. This wasn't something you had to put on special order. This was something they sell enough of that it's in stock in their warehouse. If I wanted to have a tooth replaced locally, it would cost me €1,250. And one of the best-selling bikes in Halfords is over $4,000. I know people who have a $2,000 tennis racket. You know, it is crazy what people will spend on their hobbies and their interests. But somehow we delete all that when we start thinking about, do people have money? It isn't whether people have money or not. It's about, what's the value? How will they recognize the value of what we're doing? So this next one comes up a lot. It's like, oh yeah, that's fine, John. We're allowed to earn an income. We know people spend money on a lot of stuff all over the place, expensive and all the rest of it. But helping people is more important. Well, why are we assuming that it's either or? If you can help people and get paid and continue to help people, wouldn't that be great? So if you know therapists out there who are cheap, are they busy compared to therapists who are expensive? Most of the busy therapists I know are expensive. And that isn't to say that people want to spend more money or that expensive therapists are better. It usually is more about mindset. If somebody is expensive and they're charging for their therapy, they usually take their business seriously. They usually will make the effort of getting the word out there, connecting with people and getting the clients to see the value to them. Cheap has nothing to do with how busy you are. There are very few people who are looking for the cheapest possible therapy. They're looking for someone they can trust, somebody who understands the problem that they have. When we try and sell therapy, when we try and make it about I'm disqualified or I have this amazing technique or any of that, we have missed the thing that they need to know, which is, I'm suffering with these issues. Can you help me? We have to talk about the issues that they are suffering with. And at that point, if they know we understand that, money really stops being an issue for most people. I say most, and I will tackle what do we do for those who it is genuinely an issue for. I hear this other one a lot. I'm not motivated by money. And usually to me, that comes up as a kind of, I haven't gotten comfortable talking or thinking about money. And again, I know it's a generalization here, but usually that's what it amounts to. And money is something that if we think about why we want it, what will it do in life, can feel very different. The question I always ask first when somebody says they're not motivated by money is, do you have a pension? Then I ask the others, can you afford the holiday? Can you afford heat or aircon? So Susan, yeah, I see that people on Universal Credit, they've lost their jobs. What do we do for them? I'm going to absolutely answer that for you in just a few slides time. But if I don't, if by some reason I slide past it or you don't think I've answered it fully, nail me to the mast on this one, Susan. I really want to make sure that I get the answer through for you here. People won't pay what I need to live. And I'd like you to think, what is your fee? We are in the latter part of this training this evening. We're going to look at how do we set a fee, what's going to be a good way to make that work, and what are our options around it. Yeah, hospital consultants in private practice, as Noel is saying there, they know how to ask for high fees. Yeah, dentists, typically. Yeah, everyone needs some dental work if you're paying for it. That tends to be people who know how to charge. But I want you to think about your fee and compare it to what people spend money on, the things we've already mentioned. How many sessions could they afford for the cost of an iPhone, or for that fridge freezer, or for the gaming console or gaming monitor? Let's put it into kind of something real, because if it's just a number in our heads, it's disconnected from reality. I also want you to think, how much do people earn for other jobs? You know, what's the average income, the average industrial wage where you live? I think in the UK, it's something around 36,000 a year. Is it the average income? Somebody might know, but for example, a labourer, I think, starts at about 22,000. College lecturers on about 60,000. Do these people make a difference? Is what they do valuable? Is what you do valuable? Where should you come in the ranking? I want you to be thinking about this in really practical ways and make comparisons. My friends who have the 9-to-5 type jobs, they can afford the holiday for the family. They can afford a nice car on the road. They can afford a nice house. So what are you thinking? Do you make a difference? Should that be recognized? Is that something that should be valued? It can't be out of balance where we're all about giving and it's 100% give, and 0% coming back to us. Another one that comes up a lot is, I'm not experienced enough to charge enough to live on. Has anyone ever asked you how experienced you are before they book in? So whose worry is this? Is it the client's worry? Is it your worry? So Angela, question on students. Yeah, I'm absolutely going to answer that in the same time as I answer the Susan question. It's essentially the same one. And Helene, yeah, I mean, the amount of money people spend on training, I'm in a country where education is cheap, and I've spent about 36,000 on my training so far. Yeah. So if you're not experienced, the way you become experienced, the way you become an expert, the way you really get to be very good is by seeing clients. You need to start. You need to see as many people as you can now so that you're way more experienced next year. This is fundamentally what it's about. And I want to get this point across big time. You are good enough right now. There are people you can help right now. I have yet to meet a single therapist or coach who couldn't help somebody. We think, because we hang out with therapists and coaches, that everybody is aware and has good insight into themselves and knows how to make change in life, because we hang out with people who do this. But you know what? The average person has no awareness of what's happening in their life, let alone how to change it. There are people that you are ready to help. What's the easiest thing for you to do with your modality? You know, it might be for some people dealing with phobias. Well, could you just put a message out for the people who need help with phobias, develop your skill in that one area that you're more comfortable with, and then expand? Or maybe you might be comfortable helping people with shoulder pain, but you're nervous about the neck pain. Could you help them with one area? Do that, advertise for that, let people know that's what you're specializing in at the moment, help with what you're comfortable to help with, gain more experience, and then continue to expand. My first client was a young guy who needed to get through college and was having panic attacks and was 1 week in and he was looking to stop. I was able to help him. He got through that year in college and he finished his degree in due course. I delivered value for money. I wasn't anywhere near as capable as I am now. I could do a lot more for that guy if he came back to me today. But I can't exactly ring him up and go, hey, I've gotten much better, come on back. But he got more than he needed. He got good value for what I was charging at that time. And I'd like you to think about what is the value to the person who you can help. Recently, somebody said, online, I can't really do the type of therapy that I'd like. I can only do bits and pieces of it. Well, what's the piece? Can you do a piece that will really make a difference in somebody's lives? And they have a technique in this type of therapy for what if somebody is panicking and they have something urgent they need to do and they can get the panic to come down. So I was thinking, first thing that came to my mind, okay, can you advertise that to people who are sitting a driving test or who have a serious exam coming up? And can you say, look, we can do this thing and it will help you with this thing. And can you charge for that? Because it's often much easier when we look at what's the end result that people need? Can I meet that end result? Rather than thinking, can I help everyone that comes in the door? Find your comfort levels. Get started. You are good enough. You are able to help. And I see Michael popping in there, imposter syndrome. Yeah, There's a huge amount of that. But when I started, I was terrified that I wasn't good enough. I was just coming out of 37 years of anxiety. I wasn't all that confident. But thankfully, I had no option. It was absolute poverty or find some clients and earn some income. As I mentioned, I'd 80 quid in my bank account. That was it. But each time I saw a client and each time they came back feeling a little better, I got more confidence. I got more skill and they got what they needed. Your price has nothing to do with experience. How busy you are has nothing to do with price. Charge enough to keep going. And this comes up a lot again. What if it doesn't work? Okay, let's say, right, John, I'm with you here now. I'm going to charge 100 a session. You've convinced me. There's people buying iPhones and $5,000 fridge freezers. I'm going to charge 100. But what if it doesn't work? Yeah, you know what? Sometimes it won't. Sometimes it will. No matter what you do, nothing is 100%. And look, those of us who came in through the complementary and alternative side of things, we get hammered for this because there's really unethical selling in that sector where it has to be magic. It has to be 100%. You have to get it right. It's almost as if the client doesn't exist. And, you know, if any of you are thinking that your therapy is magic and it works 100% of the time, that's setting yourself up for a really painful learning experience. And I hope you survive that experience, because that toxic way of looking at things, of putting it out there that it has to work 100% or somehow you're wrong, that costs us so many amazing therapists who could continue to keep giving and continue to help. But if they don't accept and recognize that, you know, you can help people, but you won't be able to help everyone, then they're not going to survive that. Are you willing to throw away all the people that you can help for the one person who it's not going to work for? And if you think about this for any type of therapist, somebody goes to a doctor and it turns out that they have a fatal illness, do they still pay the doctor? I know it's tough, but we have to value that what we're offering is our experience, expertise, the value of the training we've had, and the opportunity for somebody to try for change. And we do have skills that can really help. But not everyone's the same. Not everyone's going to get well. But you should be able to help a huge amount of people. Don't throw away all the good that you can do in the world because of worry about what if it doesn't work for somebody. There will be people it doesn't work for. And I'd say be cautious about linking your fee to success. If you're giving people a financial incentive to not come back, that can be disastrous. I see this with Stop Smoking. If people are offering, you know, you get all your money back if you smoke, well, when that person is struggling and they're thinking, God, if I have this cigarette, I get 2, 3, 500, whatever it is back, that's really toxic. What's very good in some cases I see Stop Smoking therapists doing is a money's worth guarantee where you can keep coming back as long as you need. There's ways that we can still offer reassurance and offer more to people without setting ourselves up for falls. I see that hit quite a point there. There's a bunch of comments coming in there. I can see there are comments. I can't quite see them at the moment as I'm teaching. I kind of dip in and out of the comments, but I'll answer every question at the end. And by the way, at the end, I'm going to pick one person who's still with me on the Q&A at the end, and I'm going to give you a free hour one-to-one with me on any part of your business. So I'm going to pick one person at the end who's still with us on that. Also at the end, I'm going to tell you about some products, services, skills I have for sale. I'm not going to labor the point with that, and I'm going to deliver the training first. So you guys, if you've been here before, you know me. I'm going to put stuff in front of you that can really help. If it's of value to you, please avail of it. If not, that's fine. So yeah, I'm great to see you guys are so on board with the fact that, you know, it isn't all on off. It isn't black and white. We have to recognize that we've spent a lot of time, money, and effort developing our skills. We're making those skills available to people. The client has to do some of the work. And you know what? You're entitled to be paid for your work. So what if someone objects? What if somebody comes in and they say, I desperately need the help? And this kind of brings us back to the couple of comments there about what if it's a student or what if it's somebody who can't afford it. So if I say to somebody, yeah, look, it's 100 a session or 150 a session, and they go, oh my God, my mortgage is in arrears, I'm out of work, I'm having panic attacks, what do I do? There's loads of options. First thing I'm going to say is never leave somebody without help. That doesn't mean that we have to deliver the help. Can you help find somebody who's cheap? And this is, I think, the number one option I'd like to encourage you to think about. If you go to your local therapist directory, whether it's online or somewhere else, and you look at therapists locally, there's people who are cheap because so many people don't know how to earn a living. They think it's all about, I have to be the cheapest going in order to help people, when that's really very little to do with it. I bet you can find somebody who's offering the type of therapy that you're offering and who's offering it very cheap. Can you refer to them? So if somebody comes to me, and I'm thinking back in my starting days when I was mostly doing hypnotherapy, I was charging $150 a session for hypnotherapy. There was a more experienced hypnotherapist in the same building as me who charged $50 a session. So you know what? If somebody thought that I was too expensive, I was perfectly happy to help out that other therapist and refer that client to them and say, hey, look, this guy has the same training I do. He's charging $50 a session. I don't know how he's able to do that, but why don't you give them a call? You can always find somebody to help. And look, so many therapists, they make the mistake of thinking this is all about money, that they're charging way too little. They're charging money that they can't survive on. But you know what? If there's people who need the help, why don't we help both of those people? Send that client who can't afford your fee to someone who can help them and who's charging less and who probably needs the money as well. What I want you to avoid here is second guessing, should you be offering a discount? And here's the biggest problem with this. If somebody comes in to me and they say, I can't afford 100 or 150 a session, would you do it for 30? I could actually say yes. I earn a living. I could afford to work one session a week for 30. But if I do, that person is going to tell their brother, their sister, their aunt, their uncle, their neighbor, everybody that asked them about therapy, that I work for 30 a session. And I'm going to get calls where people will ring me up, they will email me, and they will say, yeah, you know what? I hear you do this for 30. Oh, but you did it for so-and-so for 30. Why have your prices gone up so much? It's a slippery slope if we start giving discounts. So you need to be very careful about doing it, and you need to be clear when you do it that you tell that person, look, I'm charging that in this case for you. This is a one-off. Don't tell anyone else I'm doing this, because I'm not going to be offering this to everyone that comes in my door, and I don't want to upset people. And that's part of the reason why I'm free or why I'm expensive. The expensive lets me do what I want. The fact that I am free, nobody expects they're going to get it for free just because I've done it free for somebody else. People understand that free is something special. So it actually took some pressure off me at the start. These days, I'm in a position where I can give back to that level. I'm not suggesting that you should be giving away your therapy. Kind of the opposite generally. Sometimes people just need the context around it too. A story I tell a lot, and happily the lady is giving me permission to tell it. One lady came to me with an awful lot of difficulty, and I was saying this was going to take us probably 10 to 20 sessions, what she needed. And she was like, oh my God, 1,000 to 2,000, I couldn't spend that on myself. And that was the end of it. So I did recommend some cheaper therapists, and off we went. She got in touch about a month later, and she was just saying, hello, it's me. And I struggled for a minute before I recognized the name and the voice. And I said, oh, hi, how are things? And her response was, I bought a sofa. I was like, okay, you bought a couch. And I'm thinking, like, did it fall on her? Why is she calling me for help because she bought this? And then it dawned on me, and I just asked her, how much did you spend on the sofa? And it was between 1,500 and 2,000. Now, if you go to DFS or IKEA and you look at getting a couch, it's going to cost a lot of money. But people spend on this all the time. Sometimes the context matters. And sometimes if we're getting objections about fees, we just in our Facebook posts or our videos or speaking to community groups, wherever it is that we're engaging with people, maybe we need to mention some of the context. Maybe we need to talk about the value of it. And we need to just let people recognize that it is something that is of value. I think we're afraid of doing that a lot of the time. We're afraid of talking about what a difference it can make in people's lives, because we don't want to be making promises if it will. But we also need to let people know, yeah, there's a chance this can work. Here's what some other people have seen. Here's some success stories we've seen, or here's some celebrities who've used the same method and look how good it went for them. Sometimes we just need to be out there ahead of this and saying, yeah, give some context. What's it worth? And look, you are not the only therapist. If you feel in that moment, oh my God, this person needs help, only I can help them, probably overinflating your position in the planet. There's probably another therapist out there who could help them. Now, I'll bet you're good. I'll bet you really can help them, but that doesn't mean you're the only person. Can you just have a quick look around and have someone to refer to? There's lots of affordable counseling services out there. There's training centers in all sorts of therapy who will have discount rates for people who will be seen by their students. There's loads of options. If somebody objects, that you can just give them another alternative. So at this point, if you still feel I can't ask that much, I'd like to know why. And in a moment, I'm going to take you through the kind of time-money equation around this, because I want you to be practical and realistic about how much money are we talking about. Let's put a number on this. Let's not be airy-fairy and sort of up in the air about this. Let's be practical, put a number on it, and get into that. But as we're doing this, if you still are sitting with the, oh, I really couldn't ask for a real fee, I really want to know why. I really want to know what is it that's the thing that says it's not appropriate. And look, I am not going to be unpleasant about it. I am not going to be upset about it. I am not going to take it personally. If you can give me that nugget that's holding you back, I really hope that I can transform that into something that can help you. I do this a lot. I spend more times in my seminars asking questions about money than about the stuff that really we're supposed to be teaching in those. So we're going to look at fees and time in a moment, because everything else is something that you can learn. You need to get the word out there. You need to connect with people. But you know what? If I gave you the exact, like, step-by-step numbered list, do this first, this second, this third, of how to get people's attention, how to put forward your therapy, and how to get clients to come in, unless you're willing to step up and put that out to the world, it's worthless. We have to be able to get that message out there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to briefly tell you about the offer I'm going to make at the end. I'm going to make you 3 offers, because I know this has been a rough year on people. So I'm going to give multiple options to make it easy if you need help getting your message out to people. But the quick first one is 5 most important training modules I've ever put together. How to get your bio right. So how do you talk about you, your training, your life experience in a way that helps? My bio brings me in over 10 grand a year of people just saying that's the reason they've come in. Getting your message right. This is the psycholinguistics that connect. What to say, how to say it, how to work out for your clients what you need to be saying, how your job title and therapy type generally hold people back, but how you can transform that into something really useful, the pitfalls that keep coming up for people, and how you normalize what you do, because you know what? Most people think therapy is weird. Not going to spend time on that now. That's 885 euros worth of training. I'm offering that for 247 today. I'll talk about that at the end. But let's look at the time money balance thing, because if you're going to go, you know what, I'm confident we need to charge a fee, we need to know what you need to live on. We need to know what's energetically manageable in terms of number of clients that you see. So I'm going to take one quick question just because it flashed in support here. So Des, should you offer discounts on multiple sessions versus one-off sessions? Typically not much. It doesn't really make much of a difference. The only way that makes a difference is if you're charging up front. If they're coming in week after week, probably not. I'll talk more about that in the end. That always comes up in Q&A. So any questions around that side of things, I'm very happy to talk about that in Q&A at the end. So here's a 9 to 5 Monday to Friday. And look, I know very few therapists work 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, but I wanted to give a context to make it visually obvious what it would look like when we do break it down into how much time and such we're doing. So what would it look like if you did 22 sessions a week? So that's 22 clients a week, assuming a 50-minute to 1-hour session. And I picked 22 sessions a week because on the NHS, if I was doing the jobs I do privately, I would be seeing 22 clients a week under the standard contract. So if I could do it, and we're aiming for a 50-minute session, so I have 10 minutes in between to do 5 minutes mindfulness, go to the bathroom, whatever it is I need to do. 22 clients, which would be a full-time income, a full-time job, as a therapist would see it, would have me working mornings 5 days a week and 1 afternoon. 2 o'clock Monday, I'm gone fishing. Same on Tuesday, same on Thursday, same on Friday. I mean, I'd have to learn to fish and find if I actually enjoy that, but hopefully you get my point. We imagine 22 sessions as absolute overwhelm. And you know what? In my first year, it would have been more than I could handle. 12 sessions a week was sort of what I could do back then and feel energetically happy and comfortable with it. As you get more experienced, as you do more of this, you'll probably find it becomes easier, that it doesn't demand as much, that it energizes you more. But this is what full-time would look like. So what if you can't do it in 1 hour sessions? And this also comes up a lot. A huge amount of therapists, they take more than an hour, or they need some downtime between. If we were to make this into 22 sessions where you're doing 90 minutes, so you see a client at 9 a.m., you're finished by 10:30, you've seen 3 clients before lunchtime, and you've hopefully got some downtime in there. So maybe you're aiming for the 60 minutes, but you just need the overflow time. And this is how I operated at the start. I was appalling at sticking to time with clients, to be honest. So I allowed myself extra time, and it let me build my expertise to where I'm now more comfortable, even around managing time efficiently with clients. But if you were doing 22 client sessions where you're allowing an hour and a half, you'd still have a half day Friday and a shorter day Thursday. If you think of this and compare it to the alternative job, what would you have to do to earn a living in a different arena? So if I was back to stacking shelves or doing something like that, I'd probably be doing 36 to 40 hours a week. Would this be an easier week than doing that for 36 to 40 hours a week? Probably really would. And this is a hectic workload. Let's look at if you're going part-time. So let's assume that you're going to do 11 client sessions a week. Well, this is 11 sessions if you could do them in an hour. You see how much of that week isn't used? And realistically, you're probably going to see a few of these in a Monday evening or a Thursday evening and a few dotted through the place. But do try and get people to fit into the times you give. Don't just work your weekends and evenings because people ask. I used to do that. Then I suggested to them, could they come in at a time that suited me? And nearly all of them could. Again, I was the one second guessing and worrying about this. And if you need 90 minutes, so maybe these days you might have more cleanup time. I see Gil commenting there, hands-on therapies. Yeah, I mean, even for what I do, I have to sterilize the chair that people sit in between clients just at the moment with COVID. I schedule my day to allow for that. I'm not charging extra for it because I'm charging enough that I have a good income and I don't need to worry about that. But if you needed to allow 90 minutes for 11 sessions a week, you're still not even working all your mornings. Would this be a doable workload? And when you start thinking about it in these sort of practical ways, and if not, maybe take that middle one, the 10:30 in the morning out and see it at 3:30. So you have a couple of hours between clients. You can take a walk, you can do a half-hour mindfulness, you can do whatever you want. Would that allow you to just get your energy back and be able to deliver for the next person? Because if you want to earn a real living, you're going to have to work at it. But it can be rewarding work, it can be energizing work, and it can be on a schedule that gives us more time off than doing most regular jobs. So here's a few quick examples. What does this amount to? You know, if we look at this in terms of we expand upwards, if you're seeing 10 clients a week and you're charging 50, whether that's $50, £50, 50 euros, that's 23,000 a year at 10 clients a week at 50. If you're charging 75, that's 34,500 a year. And if you're charging 100, that would be 46,000 a year. And this assumes you're working 46 weeks, you're taking 6 weeks off. We're looking at this from this is a full-time job point of view. So I see Helen's question, how much time do I dedicate to business and marketing? Once I worked out the psychology of connection, and I worked out that Facebook was the best place to put that, I was spending typically 1 hour a week on my marketing. And that was enough. So if you're doing 15 clients a week at 50, that's 34,500. At 75, that's 51,750. This is where we start getting into what I think of as a real job. You know, you'll have your business expenses out of this, but you're probably going to be earning something in the region of 42,000 a year if you're seeing 15 clients a week. Could you space 15 clients out? If you're charging 100 a week, that's 69,000. You're probably sitting on 55,000 or so in terms of income at that. Thanks, Roisin. Okay, Anne, not allowed to practice my field at the moment due to COVID-19. I'd like to know what your field is, by the way, there, Anne, if that's okay. Can you pop that in? Now, if you're seeing 20 clients a week, and these weeks I am, I'm seeing anything up to 25 clients a week. And for me, that's because of COVID, because I'm seeing more clients online. And that means I can come home from dropping my daughter to daycare in the morning, well, not daycare anymore, actually school. And I can just do a session at 9:30, and it feels kind of effortless because I'm just doing one. So I'm getting a few extra clients kind of in at the start or end of the day when I'm doing other things. It's working nicely for me. It's allowing me to serve more people who are struggling with COVID. That's been really nice for me. But if you're charging you're charging 50 a session and seeing 20 clients a week, that's 46,000 coming in. You're probably going to have a take home of 35,000 or so, I'd guess there, depending on your expenses. If you're charging 75, that would be 69,000. And if you're charging 100, that would be 92,000. You should be taking home 75K from that. Okay. Oh, Anne, I think I know which Anne you are now. Tinnitus therapist with full audiometric assessment. Yep. I imagine that would be difficult in COVID. I wonder, is there some element of your service, though, that you could still offer? And we might talk about that a bit at the end if people are struggling with COVID. We'll see how we do in terms of getting through the main content. So looking at this, would it be worth making the effort? And when you look at the fees here, I mean, 100 is not expensive. There's a bizarre thing that happens here where the length of training people have almost inverts into how much money they're making. I see a huge amount of the time where people have a degree and a master's degree and all the rest, and maybe they're offering CBT or counselling for 30 or 40 pounds. I know CBT therapists in Belfast on 40 pounds. And I know in the same city, hypnotherapists charging 160. And, you know, I'm not trying to pit one type of therapy against another, but my hypnotherapy training was far less involved and expensive than a degree or a master's degree. But somehow we don't value what we bring to it. What you charge is really about what's the value to the client, not what type of therapy you have or what qualifications you have. And talking about what that value is what gets people comfortable with the fee. So is it possible, like, to really get out there and make a difference? So I've thrown in a few examples from people recently. A group facilitator, somebody who does small groups, so 8 people in a room, training them in a self-help method, spent 60 euros on a Facebook ad. And what they talked about was the type of problem that people face in life. They didn't talk about their therapy type. They didn't talk about them. Once people recognized the problem, the bookings rolled in. So for that advertising spend, they got 24,750 back. That's 41 times what they spent because they were willing to put themselves out to the world. And they were talking about what's the problem, not the type of therapy, not the qualifications, not the therapist. By way of putting yourself out there, I am so impressed with Antoinette McWeeny, who very gratefully actually allows me to show the video she used in my seminars. The first video she made after the training brought in more clients than she could deal with and kept her busy for 3 months. But it takes courage to step in front of a camera and to talk to the world. If we're worrying about, can I ask for money? What will people think? What if people think that I'm charging too much? Or what if people think I'm not good enough? Then we won't put ourselves out to the world. We have to be willing to step out there and talk about real things. And the big thing Antoinette did in that video wasn't have any flashy stuff or talk about her qualifications. She made it real. She talked about people's kids having too many antibiotics and talked about how she could help. Catherine Finlay, a counselor and psychotherapist, she put stuff out on Facebook. The following morning had 6 new clients. It's the being willing to step up, the being willing to put the message out. That's the thing that holds back so many people. So like one quick question now. Grania talks about you can't mention the problem. That is utterly false. It is completely untrue. If you look at my Facebook page, I am constantly spelling out problems, panic attacks, anxiety, second guessing, worry, lying awake at night, unable to get to sleep because my mind is racing. It's about how you do that. You have to talk about it in a non-accusative way. And people very often, they just do that in the wrong way. And then they think Facebook won't let you talk about the problems. You can absolutely hammer home the problems on Facebook. Michael there, John, that video was terrible, but effective because it was real. Beautifully put. I wouldn't go as far as it was terrible. It was low quality in terms of production values. There was no fancy camera or studio, but it was really real and it worked. Yeah, Grania, whoever told you that, they just don't know how to do the ad right. Yeah, simple as that. It's an easy mistake to make because if you accuse people of having problems, you won't be allowed to put the ad out. And a lot of people do that. So like I said, I'm seeing some of the comments. I will answer every single question that's in there at the end. So what's on the line? Like, think about what's the income we're looking at there. How much do you need to live? And I want you to think about pensions. I want you to think about holidays. I want you to think about educating your family. Just this morning, I paid over 100 for school books for my daughter. She's 6. That's only going to go up as the years go on. That would have been a body blow to me 6 or 7 years ago when I was struggling. But because I'm actually comfortable enough now, I'm helping a lot more people, and I'm able to be relaxed about doing the things I need to do, because you know what? She needed the school books. If I was holding back, if I wasn't getting my message out there and helping people, she'd still need the school books. I'd still have to manage that. It is win-win-win for everyone down the line. If we can put help in front of people, have them avail of it, help them, and allow us to have a return on that too, that lets us keep going. And there's lots of ways that we can help other people. For example, as I said, I do the free sessions. Sometimes you might give a discount. You can refer to cheaper therapists. There's always options. But would it be worth putting some effort into building your practice and getting comfortable around money? And if you still have issues around money, pop them in here. I want to deal with them. I do this a lot. There's more stuff that we can get into here if we need to. How much do you need to earn? I'd like you to write down a number. If you have a pen and paper, I'd like you to write down a number. What is it that would actually allow you to live? The thing that would be the equivalent of getting the regular job, not, oh, I'm worried, I think I could only make 20,000, or I think I could only make 35. What do you actually need to earn to support your family, to be comfortable, to be able to have a pension, to be able to have the life that you deserve? I'd like you to write that number down. And look, it's scary to do, but you're just writing a number on a piece of paper. And I'd like you then just to work out how many client sessions a year that is. Divide that by how many weeks you're working. That'll show you, is this energetically doable for you? And if it's not enough, if it's not working, you're going to probably want to look at things like, can you do group work? Can you do paid webinars? Can you do trainings of some nature for groups? Can you go into industry and charge a much higher rate for the exact same thing? There are always options. But if you want to be sustainable, if you want to be a therapist long-term, you need to ensure that you're earning enough that you can continue to do it without resenting it. I see so many therapists burn out because they're always working in their head, but almost never with a client in front of them. They're thinking about work continually. They're fretting about it. They're worrying about income. They're worrying about clients. It feels like they're working 24/7, but they're only seeing a few clients a week. I see people who have been in practice for 20 years and are still struggling, almost like they're just stopped being a student. I hate seeing therapists in that position. We have to pin a number down that we are willing to work towards, that this is what we need to build towards. You don't have to get there overnight, but it needs to be realistic. I want you to continue helping people next year, the following year, and as long as you want to into the future. Yes, you are allowed to retire whenever that point comes, whenever you want, but I'd really hope that you're going to continue to help people. And if that's the case, it needs to support you. Otherwise, all we're saying is you need to stop and do a different job. Is it worth pushing through your fears around money, not just to earn a living, but how many extra people are you going to help? There are people out there who I have helped who have sent me thank you cards, who have told me that, they wouldn't have had the family they have because they would have been too afraid to have kids, who have told me that they'd never have gone for the promotion, whose lives are much better. And I'm not blowing my trumpet and trying to say I'm a brilliant therapist. Sometimes I get it right. Sometimes people don't improve. That's not just down to me. But I'm still out there. I'm helping people. Yeah, and I help an awful lot more people than don't get help. But because I've been able to be sustained, because I've been able to support my family, because I can keep going on and doing this, I've gotten to make a difference in lives in the ways I never could have imagined 9 years ago when I was still anxious. Would it be worth pushing through our uncomfortable feelings around this, challenging things and moving them through? So if you let yourself get busy and earn, how many people would that be in your lifetime? You could write down how many clients a week are you looking to see. So if I think about it, if I want to see 20 clients a week, and I'm going to do that by 46 weeks in a year, I'm just going to use a calculator here. That's 920 sessions a year. I'm probably going to do this for another 25 years at least. That would be 23,000 client sessions. That's a lot of people helped. Would I like that to be on my gravestone? Helped thousands of people. I want you thinking about this not just from your perspective. How valuable is this to the person who needs the help who hasn't gotten it so far because they don't know help is available. And it isn't about price. It isn't about what type of therapy you have. It's none of the stuff that we always talk about. When I was crushed with decades of anxiety and depression, I had no idea that help was available. But the type of help that got me out of it had been available when I was a teenager, 20 minutes from my parents' house. I never knew, because that therapist talked about hypnotherapy. They didn't talk about anxiety. They didn't have anything that I could connect with when I was panicking all the time, sweating going into classrooms, having panic attacks if I was being asked a question, lying awake at night, replaying the day, dreading the next day, mind racing, taking 2 to 3 hours to fall asleep, suffering irritable bowel. They didn't talk about the real stuff. How many people can you help if you can put that message out to the world? These are the issues I deal with. If people know you deal with these issues, the type of therapy is unimportant. The cost is unimportant. Okay, so I'm going to go back through and take all the questions in a few moments. I know they've been popping in there, and please feel free to keep throwing in questions as we go. I'm also going to pick somebody who will get that one-to-one with me. So we'll do that just about the end of the Q&A. I'm going to take just a moment and tell you about what I'm offering here. If you need the help, please avail of it. I know this has been a tough year, so I've tried to put together stuff that will really help at a very low price. So I'm offering 3 different packages. You'll know where you need to be with this. The first thing is the 5 essential courses that really get you the skills to connect with people, to get the language right, to be able to talk about what you do in a way that really connects with people. There's over 885 euros of training in there. If any of you want that today, you can get it for 247 euro. I will pop up a link. If you want to learn how to connect with people and you're comfortable to use that on Facebook, so you want to go online, start using Facebook in an effective way, and that is where most of my clients will come from, I will give you my entire 10-part Facebook training plus a huge amount of bonuses and more training in there for 497 euro. And if you want everything I have ever produced, there's over 35 courses, I think, in there. You get all the stuff that's in the basic, all the complete. There's over 10,000 euros worth of training there. If you want it, you can get it for 997 today. The last time I offered that, it was 2,500. But I know this has been a tough year on people. This is the year where a lot of people have suffered with COVID. And I don't just mean feeling sick with it, but therapists have really struggled. So if it helps you guys, there are some insane discounts on offer there today. In the initial one, you get that training on the bio. It's 3 modules that will work you through how to find the stuff from your past that makes a difference, the training, how you talk about it all. My bio literally brings in more than 10 grand a year. And that's just asking people why they came into me that they're saying this. The next thing, there's a 3-part training on just how to get the message right. What is the issue you help people with? How do you get the language right for that? How do you put it out to the world? Whether you're doing that on Facebook, speaking to a group, in a newspaper, it's the same psychology. That's the stuff that really took me from almost empty to booked out. How we used labels, the type of therapy or qualifications, huge amount of stuff there that's useful. The marketing traps that we fall into to make sure you don't fall into those, and how to get people to recognize that what you do is a normal thing. Nobody thinks therapy is normal. This is the essential stuff that makes the biggest difference. And that's why I've put that package together. It'll take you through all the stuff that you need around language, connection, titles, how to avoid jargon, spotting the things that are a problem in your marketing, etc. There's a bunch of testimonials all over the place. Look, if you don't know me, these are some of the things people have said about my training. Using John's methods and techniques, I can honestly say my business has literally tripled. That's Stephen Norton, an anxiety specialist and hypnotherapist near London. Great content, very practical. Material can be implemented immediately. This stuff is gold dust. That's Frank. He's an NLP coach. Everything I do is broken down into what's the easiest way to do it. You can see there's more stuff there. You can check out my website. There's video testimonials, etc. That offer, if you want it there, you get the complete bio training. All this stuff is on my website. You can have that at 638 euros off today, just 247. And complete 30-day money-back guarantee, by the way, on all my training. If you buy something and are not happy, complete warranty, 30 days, you can have your money back. I stand over everything. You know, this is stuff that I use, that I train people with all around the world. I know this stuff works. You've got to implement it. You've got to have the courage to step up there and the feeling to do it. So anybody who signs up for this today, so before midnight tonight, my time, so that's the next 4 hours, I'm also going to give you unrestricted Ask Me Anything on those trainings. So if you're thinking, okay, that's great, but I didn't really understand this bit, or how would I use it around that, you can email me any question in the next 3 months and I will answer it personally. So whatever you need, you've got complete after-sales service as well as the warranty on this stuff. That's for people who sign up in the next 4 hours. I've dropped the link in there. I'll throw a little more info in. And I'm going to get to Q&A pretty quickly. If you want everything I've just talked about, plus the entire 10-part Facebook course, which comes including how to get the psychology right on your website, another 3-part course thrown in there for free, and training on how to get replies to work when you get a text message, email, or a written correspondence inquiry, that's in there for free. Plus Ask Me Anything for 12 months on Facebook with an email. You can get that for $497. So that gives you everything you got in the previous package, plus the whole Facebook stuff. All of this together would be $1,590. You're getting it at over $1,000 off. That's 2/3 off if you want. Again, that's just here in this webinar. This isn't something you can get this deal anywhere else. And if you just want everything, and this really will take you from the, okay, how do you get clients into how do you make bigger incomes ethically? How can you expand? How can you see what it is that you can do by way of business offerings? A huge, huge amount of training there. Look, if any of you want it, you can get it over 90% off, $997. This is a one-off offer. You have membership for this for 3 years in there. Okay, so the Elite Package gives you everything. That is a ridiculous discount, and I'm giving these discounts for 2 reasons. I know COVID has really hit people. At the start, I didn't know what was going to happen with COVID in terms of my practice, but I was able to get myself up and running online very simply. And thankfully, I've had a pretty solid year with that. So I've just thrown that offer for those. That will take you to the page link. You can make your decision as to what you want. I'm also celebrating 1 year from graduating with a master's degree, which this month last year I did. Now, I'm somebody who was having panic attacks in the classroom. I couldn't sit still. I couldn't study. Nobody's ever going to see my school leaving results. I thought I hated study. But because a therapist got their message out to me, and 9 years ago, they were able to help me start taking apart the anxiety, I'm getting to do the things I'm getting to do. I'm getting to make a difference in people's lives. And I bizarrely managed to earn a master's degree, which I never thought would happen. So it's a bit of a celebratory week. And I know I've had a good year in spite of COVID because I just went much more online. That will stand to me for the rest of time. And by the way, anybody who signs up for any of the training today, you're going to get a copy of my webinar on how to do online therapy. I'm just going to give that to anybody who signs up there. Fiona's going to kill me in tech when I tell us I'm adding extra bonuses that we haven't set up, but you'll get that in the next few days. You sign up for stuff today, you'll get stuff straight away. We're all in this together, and I really want you to get your help out there. If that therapist hadn't gotten their help out to me 9 years ago, I would not be helping anyone else. I certainly wouldn't be sitting here talking to people from all over the world. You know, this is the difference you can make. And you are enough. You are able to help people. There are people who need your help right now. I so hope that you will get your help out to them. And look, talk about the help they need. Stop talking about what types of therapy we use or our qualifications or any of that. Be about what they need to hear. What's the suffering they're in? We have to meet them there. That's what everyone needs to be able to take the step to, oh, look at how good life can be. Okay, question and answer time. I'm going to go back through this now. And I'm going to just answer every question, and you can still keep piling questions in. If you've been on trainings with me before, you know I will answer every question that comes in. I am a keep going till I drop therapist on this. I will answer everything that possibly comes in. Okay, so let's see what we've got. So Noel, most therapists undervalue themselves and under-earn. We spend years training and we need to value ourselves. There's no such thing as free counseling. Yeah, it is so true. You know, why is it that we think all the effort we put into learning and training and the energy that we give to people should be unrewarded? But I will guarantee you, I was in that mindset when I started, and I know most therapists are. this is a big chunk of why so many of us never earn a full income. And I think particularly the complementary alternative sides, I mean, when I was doing hypnotherapy a lot, it was almost seen as voodoo, that somehow I had to wave my magic wand and fix them as if the person coming for therapy didn't matter. We have to recognize the partnership, that they have to bring something to the equation. They have to try. It's not all about us waving magic wands and suddenly delivering it. It'll work some of the time, it won't the rest of the time. And that's not just down to us. The client has to be part of that. Yeah, Michael's comment, I've been told to give it away as it's a gift from God. Well, my plumber probably has a gift from God if you want to look at it that way. If you believe that's where such gifts come from, he certainly is a gifted plumber. I'll try that line on him next time I need a pipe fixed. We'll see where that goes. Client needs value for money, and that feels like pressure. And yes, what if it doesn't work? Yeah, Aoife, it's very true that the client does want value for money. Is the value of what we give to them more than an iPhone? You know, is it more than the 1 year newer car? Is it more than the value of the sofa or the weekend away? I mean, I've had a weekend away around the times I was getting out of my anxiety, which cost me more than getting out of my anxiety. You know, the value for money, we seem to think that we have to solve every single thing to 100%. If I talk about that client that I helped initially who got through college, yeah, these days I wouldn't see that as delivering the values I can currently deliver. But boy, was that worth it for them. You know, if you think about the difference between getting through college and not getting through college, how much importance is there in that? What would that be worth to somebody? Or if I mention again that technique for dialing down stress before an exam, if somebody is trying for their driving test, how much would it be worth to them to be able to be calm doing that test? You know, sometimes we need to look at what's the piece of value that we're giving and not try to solve everything at once. Helen, yeah, gave big discounts at the start, now charge 120, you're a sliding scale of 80. It's working, need to get more advertising out to gain clients. Yeah, and Helen, a brilliant example here with this is when you're charging enough to live on, you can afford to spend small amounts on advertising. A newspaper advertising budget to keep me fairly busy would be about 6,000 a year. A Facebook advertising budget to keep me booked out is under 500 a year. So it's not a huge amount of money, but it's much easier to spend that money when we do have just some capacity in the bank to do that. Yeah, and not appreciated if you give it for free. That is so true. It is almost as difficult, by the way, to get people to come for free therapy if you're just advertising it out there as to get them to come as a paying client. If you're just looking for anyone to come in, that can be really tough. Yeah, people think if you're doing free sessions and not charging a high fee, they're not getting the best. There is an element of that. Very few people want the burger and chips of health. You know, they're not looking for what's the cheapest, fastest way. That is only for the people who haven't connected with you. If they don't see how you help, what's the issue? You know, if somebody talked to me about lying awake at night with my mind racing, the constant knot in my stomach, I'm no longer interested in what type of therapy they do or how much it costs. I know they understand the issue. That's the stuff that we need to talk about, not how much our fees are. Yeah, people are not more responsible just because they get paid more. You have to pay to see a doctor. Yeah, why not paying to see a therapist? Absolutely. Susan says, I took a client who only took discounted offers when I discovered she had been on a trip to Australia and New Zealand for 6 weeks. I was so annoyed. I helped pay for the trip. Really bizarrely, back in 2011, 2012, so the worst of the recession, the biggest problem that I was seeing in terms of why people were not coming in was people taking foreign holidays, saying, look, I can't make it this week because I'm in Barcelona. I couldn't believe it. But that was the single most common excuse, was people not being able to attend, having to move appointments because they were traveling. And here I was second guessing and worrying about money. The client only took discount. Yeah. Yeah, clients are paying for the premises, wages, light, insurance, heat, etc. We have to think about all of that. We have a business which is a tool to let us help more people, but there are costs involved with that. So it's not really supply and demand, because there is no competition on you when you're connecting with people. Most clients who come in my door don't know what type of therapy we're going to do. The main thing I do in therapy is EMDR. Most people have never heard of it. And they come in because they know I help with anxiety or trauma. I've spoken about anxiety and trauma. I've connected on that basis. They've come because I've put their life in front of them. And that totally bypasses supply and demand. they have some faith and hope in me. They're willing to pay for that. That's really the ball game right there. So people in Universal Credit, yeah, we can do the free session. We can do the discount session. We can refer them to a cheaper therapist. I recommend do number 3 first. You know, you're not the only game in town. It's easier to stick to a fee that lets you live. Go back and think about how much do you need to earn year on year in order to be able to earn the income that you want, to live the life that you want. You know, if that's 35 or 55 or whatever it is, can you afford to be giving discounts and still achieve that? And remember, every time you give a discount, you're giving away money. You're giving away a capacity to support your family. You're giving away something that matters to you. Be sure you can afford to do that. If you can't afford to do that, please don't injure you and your practice by trying to deliver everything to everyone. There is a cheaper therapist locally with the same therapy type for just about all of us. Can you recommend them instead? Hospital consultants in private practice help others. They know how to ask high fees. Yeah, I mentioned that one. When I was coming out of my anxiety, I was misdiagnosed with loads of stuff. I remember paying 178 for an 8-minute session with a hospital consultant. And basically said, you'll be in pain for 2 years. There's nothing we can do. Happily, that disappeared when the anxiety disappeared. But yeah, it is amazing the prices that are out there. Recently, somebody told me a consultant charged 450 plus sales tax or VAT just to write a note for somebody. Not recommending you do that. Just putting some context out there. Yeah, my education cost a great deal, says Helen. I'm not sure am I pronouncing it right, by the way. Helen, my apologies. You cannot put a price on saving a life. Yeah, I learned this 35 years ago, getting in recovery. Again, I have to pay for my own healing. Yeah, look, we are going to make massive differences in people's lives. If people are more confident, the things they can do are phenomenal. I had 2 people come to me in a single month who had given up raises of 30,000. That wasn't the income level. That was the raise that they'd given up because they weren't confident doing presentations. You know, how much is on the line for some of these? And we're worried about charging a fee. You know, there's people out there like that. They've given up 30,000. That's what's on the line for them with the help. If you could help me and I was back with my anxiety right now, I literally would not care what you charged as long as I had hope that it would work, as long as I knew you understood the process and I had a real chance. And there are so many people out there who are very wealthy. The COVID recession is a 50-50 recession. The amount of savings has increased by billions in the first month of full COVID back in April, because loads of people are still on full incomes and they're not spending it on holidays. They're not spending it on going out and having meals out. There's huge amounts of savings going in. I tried to buy a garden shed recently and there's a 4-month waiting list because so many people are saving so much money in COVID. We see in the newspapers and on TV the hard luck cases, but there are lots of people out there who are still earning really well. I would rather charge them a really high rate that they can afford, that is value to them, and have that subsidize me helping some people for free. That's my own way of looking at it. Yeah, just because you learn more, progress doesn't mean you have, so just you learn more doesn't mean that what you were doing before isn't good enough. That's absolutely the case. Like, we're giving value on day one. You can make a difference. Every therapist I know can make a difference. We look at people who've been doing it 20 years and we imagine that somehow they're much better at it. Not necessarily the case, but even if they are, you can still deliver amazing value right now. Please get that out to people. Yeah, so Susan saying again that she couldn't do the full job she wanted in lockdown, but she did what she could and they were really happy with that. Just because we have a preconceived idea of how much help we should be able to give doesn't mean that's what they're expecting. They might be happy with the piece that moves them a chunk in the right direction. Yeah, and as Noel says, yeah, you know, the therapeutic alliance is a huge thing. It's easier to do that when we're confident in what we're doing, when we're kind of feeling that we are being valued. There's a synergy that runs through all of this. Okay, Des, thanks for the comment about that. Cheers, lots of nice comments there. Pay the consultant €200 for an injection. Oh, wow, John. Yeah, your GP charged 50 for the same thing. Yeah. You know, it's not about price. Yeah, a lot of people want to be fixed by somebody else, not prepared to do any work towards that themselves. That is so true, and that can be so damaging to the therapist because we can end up feeling like we failed when really they weren't willing to do anything. I had one client who I am her 29th therapist, And the moment we made change was where she said, oh my God, I get it now. I have to do the work. But she'd gone to 28 quick fixes, none of which had worked. That wasn't a service to her that those people were offering quick fixes and focusing on it in that way. We need to be very realistic about these things. Yep, helping people help themselves. That's exactly it, Adele, beautifully said. I worry more about experienced therapists looking at me charging more. Okay, I'd like you to think about the experienced therapist. I'd like you to think of them on one side, and I'd like you to think about the person in need on the other. Who's more important? What does the person you're helping think? That's the only person you should be concerned with. What another therapist is thinking about me is none of my business. And I'd like to suggest that it isn't your business what any other therapist thinks. And you know what? They're mostly going to think, hey, she's charging a really good rate. They might be jealous about it, but you know what? That's their problem. I really hope that for all of us on here, any fear or worry we have is less important than wanting to make a difference in someone's life. Whenever I was worrying in the early days, I focused as much as I could on what does this do for the person who's suffering. And having come out of decades of suffering, I knew the value of that. And it was easier for me to think, okay, what is it that this person is suffering? You know, if somebody has physical pain and you're helping them with that, what's the value to them of that? Is that more important than what the neighbors think? If somebody has digestive issues that's causing a problem in their life, is helping them with that more important than what other therapists think about our fee? Thinking about it in those ways, questioning it in those ways often helps people. So Angela asking on the subject of GP, so like a family doctor sort of thing, wondering if there's any expectancy to give a medical doctor a fee if they refer a client to you. I don't believe so, and I believe in most countries that would be unethical under the guidelines that most medical doctors work to. Part of what I do is workshops. I give a workshop as an option, a less expensive way. Yeah, workshops, group things. This can be a brilliant way of increasing our capacity to help a lot more people and also earn more money. It is brilliant that you do that. If when you work out how much you need to earn in a year and you can't see enough clients at a reasonable fee to do that, if it just doesn't add up, look at what are the group options and look at can you get into businesses. You can charge 3 times as much in many cases for delivering the exact same stuff into a business as for the average person in the street. And yes, there is training on that in the complete package. Sorry, not the complete package, the elite package. So Vanessa, going to do some research, really hadn't thought about comparing the items such as fridges. Yeah, pick a charity and offer a client in need. Thank you so much. That is something that really makes a difference, Vanessa. If I was wearing a hat, I would be taking it off to you genuinely right now. Go you. Go you. So let's see. Oh, cheers, Jeannie. Top class. So delighted to hear that, Jeannie. Great that you had a good experience. So Des, should I offer discounts on multiple sessions versus one-off sessions? If it's productized, that can work. So if it's a stop smoking program, a weight loss program, a personal development program, then that can work. But if it's, I need to come in for help every week for 20 weeks because it's therapeutic, it doesn't tend to work very well there. And the reason for that is the psychology of how we connect for what that's offering is different. When I connect with somebody on the basis of mind racing, unable to sleep, panic knot in my stomach, ruining Sunday night worrying, making it worse than Monday morning, if I start to talk about money and packages and discounts, I actually damage the rapport, I damage the connection, and I will be less likely to see the client. So in a situation like that, I really recommend don't go for discounts, don't offer free sessions, don't offer free consultations, just say get in touch. If you're offering a productized thing where they can buy on your website, I'm signing up for 10 sessions of personal development and it's a program, it works better with that. So that would be my advice there. Okay, yeah, the woman getting, yeah, Breed's comment here. I know a lovely, respectable lady who went around to a few different therapists claiming poverty, getting a few free therapies in the bag, and went on a 6-week holiday to the West Indies. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to take a 6-week holiday to the West Indies? How many therapists can afford to do that? And here we are giving free sessions and discounts to somebody who's doing it. This happens all the time. I've seen people second guess and offer huge discounts to somebody who later turned out to be a surgeon in the local hospital. We really need to be careful about that sort of thing. Okay, Leslie, offer blocks of 3 sessions, payment up front, and most go with that. Look, if it's working for you, that's fine. Do they renew after 3 sessions, or is it something that they just need to do 3 sessions in is going to be a key point there. If it's something that's longer term, in tracking this for hundreds and hundreds of therapists, we tend to do better with a pay-as-you-go, a higher fee, and a greater connection to what's the problem in terms of how we offer it. Okay, Susan, yeah, you do 1.5-hour sessions. I hope you're charging to reflect that. Yeah, hands-on therapies now, less clients realistically with COVID. Yeah, look, my barber has gone up 50% because of the issues around COVID. And I think that, you know, if it is something where you're having to do more work, that is possibly something you need to just look at in terms of a higher fee, sadly, with things at the moment. So yeah, I mentioned just with the business and marketing, with a Facebook campaign, writing a post would take me about 40 minutes. Checking in a few times during the week was all I was doing. So that was about an hour a week. And look, I will say I'm exceptionally good at connecting with people and writing this stuff because I had to be good. Otherwise, I would be in poverty. But it doesn't take a huge amount of time. Don't allow it to expand. Maybe pick one morning a week and just work one morning a week on promoting your business. Or ideally, maybe if you're allowing 11 client sessions in the week, if you've only 6 client sessions filled, maybe the other 5 hours becomes your marketing time. But do pin it in. Don't let it expand where it eats your weekends and evenings. Do the right stuff and do it well, and that's much more efficient. If we don't know what we're doing, we tend to be inactive, procrastinating for hours and feeling like we're working. But it doesn't need to be huge amounts of time. Thanks, Roisin. Glad you found the charts. I find visual stuff like this really brings it down. If I thought about doing 15 clients a week at the start, I would have panicked. But if I thought about it, that's 3 clients a day for the 5 days. I could have like 5 hours off in my day and still see 3 clients a day, or 15 over the week. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. Great to see that you're still doing the combination of socially distanced phone and Zoom. I have more clients online than I do in person these days, and that's been great for clients who otherwise couldn't see somebody, just there wasn't anybody local to them, or they couldn't find somebody. They were able to reach out and get to me. And like I said, by the way, if any of you are thinking you can't deliver help online, I've even found ways that massage therapists can deliver help online. Anybody who signs up for any program this evening, you're going to get that webinar recording of how to do online therapy, where I take you through all that too. Lizzie, great to have you with us. I did a master's, and in our training, we were told to expect it to be really difficult to find work, and that we have to expect to be a volunteer and work. Oh my God, what miserable advice. Lizzie, put me in touch with those people who were teaching you. I want to have a word with them. So let's see what else here. Should one consider market research? Do you know what? None of the therapists I've helped have we ever done market research with. And we don't need to. There are so many people out there who are on social media that we can just put a message in front of. We can set the demographics to people of this age around this town. I've even helped people kind of in the outback near Perth in Western Australia, and we had 56,000 people in our Facebook advertising group who were within an hour's drive of them. It is just amazing how easy it is to connect with people. The market research more is about who would have the problem. You know, is sports people who have this type of injury, should you be targeting them? Or is it people of a certain age group or a gender or something like that? And then using those to target it in. It's almost just knowing who is your demographic rather than the market research. I've yet to see a therapist who can't be successful. I see therapists of all kinds being really successful. And it's just about being comfortable to get their message out there and connecting with people's needs. Okay, do free sessions, part of a health and well-being day, got people coming. Great Science just said no, felt much. Okay, yeah, so people kind of taking advantage again with the free stuff. It's so often the case, sadly. So moving on up. Okay, and a very interesting point from Michael there. Like he looked at other therapists who were charging higher fees, looked at the content of their website, and kind of realized that, they weren't as good as him. And I think the bar is very low. Sadly, most therapists are appalling at connecting with people and appalling at getting the message out to the world. Every time I'm asked to look at the therapy center and look at their website, it's always the same story of people competing to look impressive rather than telling people what they help. The bar is low. Most therapists never get there because they never really try. They never really work in connecting. So Helen asked, do I recommend offering payment plans? I don't recommend offering it. I recommend having them if you're asked for them. I have clients who are paying bits and pieces as they can occasionally. I have no problem with that, but I wouldn't offer it up front. It's when they say, look, I'm struggling to continue, that I would say, would it make it easier for you if we went to this? If you have payment plans on your website and stuff, it again sounds like you're second guessing your fees. It's an option I'd have in my back pocket. I wouldn't be putting it proactively in front of people, but I'd have it there if somebody needs it. Really good question, Helen. So Noel, considering learned attitudes about money. Yeah, look, I mean, we always carry our own baggage. If we're an anxious therapist, we'll second guess stuff. But you know what? If you're an anxious therapist, see a therapist. You should have some confidence in therapy. Things can change. I am living proof of that when it comes to anxiety. Yeah, so that came up a few times there, I see. So what would I do if somebody who I'm supporting has life changes and can no longer afford the sessions? Personally, if it was genuine, I'd probably give them my free slot. And I have taken on clients who I never expected to get paid from, who, had appalling trauma in their past. And, that's fine. I can make that choice, but I can only make that choice because I have people who can afford it paying me. I'm not giving away to everyone. I'm making sure that the mortgage is paid, the electric will be on, the heat will be on, my daughter's school books were paid today. That stuff is taken care of. Now I can make those decisions, but be very careful about giving away if you can't afford it. So Victoria, great to have you with us as well. Victoria, feel like due to COVID, that in the wrong time to increase price and that upping by £30 per session is too high a rise. Yet it would work only at 45 per hour, which is pretty good in my eyes. Wow, okay. So Victoria, I'm going to recommend that you keep the price for your existing clients and up the price for new clients. That way, there should be no problem. And if you were only charging, if I'm reading this correctly, £15 an hour, I don't think anybody's going to argue with a price increase that still has you in the lower end of what therapists are charging. Nearly every therapist I work with, when they come on my preferred program, which is a one-to-one where we work together for 12 months doing a monthly session, I help them with their business. Nearly everybody ups their price significantly. But it's usually much easier to kind of say to your existing clients, my price is going up, don't worry, it won't apply to you. Or you could say it won't apply to you for 6 months or 12 months. So that you don't have to worry about kind of pulling the rug from under them, but you're still marking it out for new people coming. And that's a new expectation, a new engagement. It doesn't matter what you charged before if what they see now is that 45. I really hope you increase your price, probably to more than 45 per session, Victoria. I would love to see you actually earning a really good income. So Susan, Facebook seems very quiet these days. Post a lot in it, get likes on my post, but not really putting clients. Yeah, Susan, it's probably down to what we're saying. I could put £1,000 into a Facebook ad tomorrow and see no result. But if I'm connecting with people, if I'm identifying what their problem is and doing it in a way that gets them to spot themselves, then I should get great results. I'm going to give you a once-off offer here, Susan. Send me one of your Facebook posts and I will email you back some critique on it. Just send it to my regular info@therapyandcoachingsuccess.com. That's a one-off. I'm not going to do that for anyone else before I'm deluged, but I'll happily look at one of those for you. Okay, so just continuing up. Every now and then it looks like another comment goes in. I'm just going to throw in the link for those packages again for anybody who's still asking. So, thanks for all the congrats to the masters. Look, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I still wander about in the days and sometimes say to people, they gave me a master's degree, because I was so having panic attacks in classrooms. I mean, the words lifelong learning were torture for me. But, It got to the point where that changed because a therapist helped me. And they helped me because they connected with me. Not because they talked about the therapy, not because they talked about how great their experience was or any of that. And it was nothing to do with price. I didn't care much about price. I just needed help at that point. And it was such amazing value. I have never spent money as wisely in my life. So I see there's a few more questions. We're nearly done by the look of it. Then I'll pick a winner. If we have to work a coaching therapy practice part-time, can we justify charging full rates? I have a regular job. Absolutely, Des. I mean, you're doing the same job. You know, if you sit down with a client for an hour and you do coaching or therapy, how is that different from if I sit down with them? You know, just because you have other work you have to do doesn't or shouldn't devalue the part-time. And I would say I see a lot of therapists who really get themselves going part-time. They charge a full rate there, then they can see this does work, and then they can decide, do they want to go full-time and, you know, not have to do the 9 to 5 regular thing. So yeah, look, I mean, the work you're doing, what it delivers to the person does, that's what they're paying for. You know, what you do with the rest of your time really shouldn't impact that, in my opinion. Okay, so Anne, really sorry to see that you've been in isolation to such an extent. Yeah, I really hope you can get your practice restarted as soon as possible. Yeah, so SJ, sometimes feel guilty charging. Yeah, I'd like you also to feel guilty about not charging. I'd like you to feel guilty about, you know, condemning yourself to poverty if that's what's happening. I'd like you to feel guilty about not allowing yourself to earn a full income so that you can keep doing this long term. I'd like you to feel guilty about all the people that aren't going to get help if you're not putting yourself out there. And that might sound kind of cruel, but sometimes we need the bigger bad feeling. You know, what made me successful wasn't really my desire to help. That was huge. But abject poverty, not being able to afford a toll road to finish my training because I had no money, knowing that I was going to have to go on social welfare and that I was never going to be able to get a real job, that's what really made me. It was the awful feeling that came from not succeeding that really pushed me over the line to where I started seeing what worked. And then I paid attention and tracked that and just became geeky about it. And that's what I'm now sharing with all you guys is what did I learn in this way? But it was bad feelings I had to get away from that made the difference to me. So SJ, if you're feeling guilty about charging, I hope you also look at the flip side of that coin, and I hope that you can find the comfort level with this. And if there's anything that still holds with you that you're saying is making you feel guilty, please throw it into the comment here. I will happily answer anything I can to try and help you with that. So, yeah, Helen, the money coach, a financial autobiography to see what your beliefs and feelings around money are. Yeah, I'm sure there's loads of people out there who can help us with that if that's something that's holding us back. Yeah, Helen, 150 for a 15-minute phone consultation recently. That's phenomenal, isn't it? Yeah, it's about what the client, bang, that's it. I feel envious when I see what my competitors charge for therapy, which is really giving me feedback. I do need to up my prices. Yeah, look, if they're able to charge that and they're being successful in it, it shows, you know, we are obsessed with thinking I have to be the cheapest. And the cheapest therapists are usually not busy. So dropping my prices due to COVID, trying to mitigate time in the treatment room to 1 hour in and out. So they wanted the price drop, not to increase the extra cleaning time. I'm not okay, why I wasn't dropping my prices. So, well, I would assume the fact that you can't see as many clients, you have more work to do, you have extra cleaning and sanitization and PPE costs should answer that. But a lot of people have started thinking, oh, I should charge less because it's online, or I should charge less because of COVID. To be honest, all your costs are still there. You know, if you're not able to see as many clients, your costs are higher, your income is less. I would be saying the opposite. And you know what? I can help people online to the same level of effectiveness as I can in person. Nobody is quibbling that. You know, I haven't changed my prices for online, and I have more online clients than in person at the moment. People are happy with that because I'm connecting with them, using that psychology of connection, being able to get them to recognize themselves in what I put out to the world. That's what really makes a difference. And once that's in play, the price doesn't really come into it for most people. And we always have those options to refer out to a cheaper therapist. I mean, we'll keep seeing here, there are lots of cheap therapists out there. Sadly, we're some of them in some cases here. But I'm sure there's other people out there who are cheap that we can refer to. And you can always do the free or the discount, but be very careful about the discount. That sets your price. People will start looking for it. So what do I use to collect online payments? I use Stripe, Stripe. It has no monthly charges. You just pay about 2%, I think 2.05% or something on payments. I also use SumUp, sumup.co.uk or sumup.com or sumup.ie, depending on the country you're in. I'm sure there's other options like it out there. It's a chip and card reader, but you can also send a text message, which they can enter a payment into, or send them an email, which they can pay. So SumUp is a very good tool. Again, about 2%, no monthly charges. Costs about 20 quid to buy the machine. Oh, Des. Okay, so you must be local to me there, seen my adverts in the Tullamore Tribune. Yeah, I advertised in my local newspaper a lot at the start. It was worthless until I worked out the psychology of connection. One March, I wrote an article on stress and I got not a single phone call. 180 something spent on that ad, not a single phone call. The following month, I rewrote the exact same advert, put it into the exact same newspaper there, the Tullamore Tribune, and I got 6 phone calls, 6 new clients. The difference was I started talking about the person's problem, not stress. I made it real. It was about pressure to go to the bathroom before a meeting, worrying so much that Sunday night is worse than Monday morning. But these days I don't advertise in the papers anymore because in 2015, 2016, I switched to Facebook and I suddenly had a waiting list, was seeing way more clients and I was spending a fraction of the cost. And to this day, Facebook is still my #1 place where you get clients easily. Thanks very much, Des. Oh, on the cliff edge of launching your coaching therapy career. Well, I really hope you go for it, and I want to wish you every success with it, Des. We are really suffering a lack of good people in the Midlands here who are getting the message out. There's loads of people out there making no effort. They're not getting to help anyone. I really hope you get your message out there, Des, and that you go for this. Okay, so repricing meant we go up to 90. Okay, that's a huge relief, Victoria. I obviously misread that in a very pessimistic way. 90 for a 1.5 2 hour session. Yeah, that is still not expensive, depending on where you are. You might let me know where you are roughly, like what city or what area you're in. You know, pricing can change according to where you are. I've worked with a lot of Harley Street clinicians in London. Some of them are charging 300 and 400 upwards, and there's kind of an association with the street that means they can get away with it. But even in rural areas, in the Australian outback, in Alabama, in the west of Ireland, where I'm sitting this evening, price isn't really a big factor. You know, you can charge what you need. Okay, Margaret, glad you're back. Don't know what went on there. Yeah, abject poverty is a great motivator. I once ran a seminar because the tax deadline was looming. Sometimes it takes a kick in the backside to get me moving. Okay, that was my client asking you to drop prices. Yeah, look, I mean, I'm sure they can ask, but I think being able to say, well, look, it costs me just as much to deliver the service, so you know, I still deliver the same value. And I'm glad, Helen, that you appreciate my humor. Not everybody does, but that's me. Okay. Do I read? John, do I do Facebook ads? Yeah, I do a lot of advertising on Facebook. For my therapy practice, it would be sort of a regular, put out a long form post where I talk about an issue, boost it, maybe put $25 US behind it because my Facebook account is in US dollars. And that's where most of my clients come from. So Victoria, you're in Kent. Ah, look, you're in a very affluent area. You have huge population there. You can very much target quite specifically on any social media for people who that's not going to be any issue for. And look, depending on what you're doing, I'm assuming counseling or psychotherapy. I don't know why I'm assuming that. You might actually just pop in, Victoria, what type of therapy you're doing. And I'll finish that thought then. And Noel, you're in the West Midlands again. I mean, the population base you have there. I was doing targeting recently for Crewe and for Solihull, and there was one other place just on the Welsh borders. I can't think of the name, for the bit south of not Chester, is it? Yeah, it might be Chester. But the populations were phenomenal. I mean, we really had to be very specific to bring it down to the size of audience that we wanted, so as to be sure that more people were going to take action. You know, most of the UK is a tremendously good area in terms of you just have the population to make life easy. Any of the major urban areas in the US are great too. But, you know, the Highlands of Scotland, the west coast of Ireland, the Australian outback, like, we still are able to find enough people who need help in these places. But we worry and we second guess this all so much. Okay, did I miss anyone's question? If I did, you can just throw it in there. I'm going to just go across and we're going to pick a winner here now. So just a moment. And while I'm doing that, I'll also just throw in the link again for anybody. If you want any of that training, it is all incredibly practical stuff. I work through things in a very systematic way. You will have all that training there, you know, which really is the stuff we've just found to work. You need to connect with clients. That's what our expertise is in. There's so much stuff in there in different ways to do it, how to find opportunities, how to develop an income. I would love to help you guys with it, so do avail. Okay, so spinning this here. And Roisin, let me find this. Roisin, are you still on with us? Do we have more than one Roisin on the call? So there's just a few seconds delay between me speaking and sometimes you're hearing it, so I'm going to give a few seconds there. So advanced clinical therapist, yeah, you know, 80 an hour sounds, sorry, 70 an hour. It sounds pretty low for something that's an advanced clinical therapist. Yeah, Roisin, okay. So Roisin, I'm going to find you. So it's Roisin, and then there's 2 more words at gmail.com. We'll just confirm that that's the Roisin that it is. So Margaret, yeah, look, advanced clinical therapist. I'm not sure is that a physical therapist, psychotherapist, some other type of therapist, but anything that's an advanced clinical therapist, I'm expecting I would be paying upwards of that in most parts of the UK. Jill, you're very welcome. North Worcestershire, yeah, that should be good. I mean, you should have no problem targeting people. If any of you need help on that, the Facebook course in the package there takes you through exactly how to do it. That was all updated in the recent weeks. All the screenshots, all the click here, do this is all bang up to date, and we'll take you through exactly how to target if that's something you're not able to do. Okay, yeah, look, physical therapy, when it comes to physical pain, people will spend, you know, it's about connecting with what type of pain. And Margaret, I'm wondering, did I meet you in London at a seminar a few years ago? Did you attend one of my trainings? Because I remember Margaret, who was a trainer there. Okay, Roisin, we've confirmed that's you. I will reach out to you on Friday, Roisin, and we'll set up a time and we will speak for an hour and I will help you with whatever part of your practice you need help with. So, yeah, Margaret, connect with them in terms of what type of pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, back pain, whatever it is. There's going to be phrases like reaching for the thing on the high shelf causing the pain. You know, the day-to-day experience, getting in and out of the car and my hip is twinging, getting in and out of bed and it's uncomfortable. Those sort of things are going to be the big thing. So, okay, so I'm just going to publish the offer there again. Last chance for any of you who want that. We're not going to be giving these discounts after this again. So if you need my help, ping in there. If any of you want to work one-to-one with me, please, you know, feel free to get in touch too. I know we were live broadcasting to One Therapy Training Institute this evening. I just want to say hi to all the students there. It's been great having everybody with me here. Thank you so much for being here. If there's any last questions, you can fire away. Otherwise, we'll be heading off soon. And thanks so much for all the good feedback there. Okay, looks like I'm done there then. I'm not seeing any more questions. Thank you all so much again for being here with me. And I shall look forward to hopefully seeing you all on another training soon. And if you have any questions about something or suggestions rather for something you'd like me to deliver an online training on, you can always drop me an email there too. Okay, thanks again, everyone. Take care. Look forward to helping those of you who are joining on the programs there. Brilliant to see people coming on board for that. And get your help out to as many people as you can. All the best.